Collecting. It's a very interesting hobby, to say the least. So, I guess let's just do a video about it. Yeah, so I guess I'm going to be talking about my thoughts as a collector of, well, mostly games, but I've also collected books and CDs in the past before, and I sort of want to really give my thoughts about all of this, and I guess really just break down the experience and what makes it so interesting. So, obviously, I guess what's a collector? Well, it's basically someone who, I'd say a collector is someone who is hugely into a hobby and they want to be able to collect pieces of their favorite media. For example, you have people who are going to collect Pokemon cards. They'll hunt down specific sets until they complete them. Or you have people who they want to collect Atari games or Wii U games or PlayStation games. There's really no right or wrong way to collect. And I've spoken about this plenty of times on YouTube before, but yeah, I guess that I was a game collector for a bit. Now, obviously, I say for a bit because in recent times, I've kind of downsized on my collection. Posts I've done on Twitter and Blue Sky and Discord don't really reflect my game collection anymore. So, I want to really share my experiences with collection and really see, is the hobby worth getting into? Any fun stories? Anything else I've ever done? Well, I guess we'll be talking about that. Obviously, most of the video was talking about just regular old game collecting. But there's been other things to collect before. Some I've just brought up, but tons of people collect tons of different things for various reasons. Be it for sentimental reasons, or they, simply just like what they're collecting. So I guess really what makes one. I'd honestly say if you have 5 or more things, I'd probably say you're a collector. Yeah, at least that's my definition. It might change for someone. Someone might be like, if you have 2 or more rare things, then you're a collector. Or, if you know a lot about what you're collecting for, then you're a collector. Personally, I personally just don't care how the definition is. I think if you have 1 in 5 of anything, you might just be a collector. So, I guess, what have been my experiences with game collecting or collecting for other forms of media? Any ones I ever start off with? Well, technically, I started with collecting Lego sets and Transformers. Obviously, this is going back 20 plus years ago when I was still a kid. I was a huge fan of Transformers, and I was a huge fan of Legos. So, I normally collected for my favorite sets of those. Obviously, didn't get, every Transformer, but it was more so the ones I thought were the coolest and my favorites. Now, obviously, eventually that kind of shifts into games. As I got my first DS from my late father, I really began collecting games. Originally, it was on a DS, and this is kind of a point where I honestly generally did not know what was good and what was bad. I think that's something that every collector really runs into, at least when it comes to games. And honestly, could probably be the same thing about books too. And that's mainly just because you don't really know what's good when you start collecting for it. A lot of my earliest DS games, I honestly don't have anymore simply because they really weren't the best games. And, I guess that sort of makes sense. I mean, the first DS games I had were the other movie tie-ins, or just games that really I had no interest in, or didn't know how to really play. It really wasn't until I got into the Pokemon series that it really started to shift for me. And obviously, my next collection was, well, probably on the PS3. That's when I did get a few other games. Mostly some of the early card games and Grand Theft Auto 4 and Red Dead Redemption. But my first really big collection didn't really start until about a decade back. I started collecting the Pokemon games again because I got hugely into the series, and those were the ones I wanted to play. And so I started getting 1 or 2 games per year because, well, we didn't always have like the most, and so we had to be careful with spending. And wasn't really until like I think 2018 that I really started my Xbox collection, because I had a few games that my sister had from one of her exes, and like the only game I had was like Grand Theft Auto and Skyrim, and I had a copy of Skyrim the next year. It wasn't until really 2019 I started picking up more titles, mostly early Call of Duties and a couple Battlefields here and there, along with a couple of other games. So it's really at that point that my game collection kind of started. And obviously before this I was also still collecting other stuff too, like, well, books and manga, although those really never went anywhere because it was never really going after. I wasn't really going after like, random books. It wasn't like if I found a game I really liked or that had a cool cover, yeah, I'd check it out more. With books, I mostly just mainly read what I wanted to read. And even then, there's some books that I have that generally they're nothing that I find interesting. But, it really wasn't until 2019 that I really started collecting games. At least this was on the 360 and the DS, because those were the only systems I had. I did have a PS2, but no store around me even sold any PS2 games. And I also did not know my way around town during that time. And the next really big moment was 2022, and that's when I got my PS4. And I think it really did open up the floodgates for stuff I collect. Mainly because, well, I had a lot of experience with the PS4. I played a lot of games on that, and really at the time they were still releasing new games, because this was 2 years after PS5 dropped, and so it really made it easy to collect for it. And next year I got myself a PS5, and I got a Switch a few months prior, and so it really did open me up to really start finding more games. Now, obviously I was running into the same issue, and that's just, as a collector starting to collect for the systems for the first time, it is really difficult to kind of find what exactly you want to collect for. Now, obviously, there's people who they'll just go pick up any random game and have it in their collection. Some people might collect stuff that seems interesting. But for me, I think what really justifies my collection is that, am I going to replay this? Because I know there's people who will not play a game, like they'll just have it in their collection. And I've had this with a few games too. I mean, I have Call of Duty Black Ops 3 on the PS3 and Xbox 360. I'm probably never going to play these because it's just zombies and multiplayer. There's no campaign, and honestly, you have to be on Xbox Live just to play it on the 360. which is kind of stupid. And with me, well, it's just any game that's in my collection is games that I generally want to replay at some point. Like, I mean, I've played most of the Call of Duty games at this moment. Like, the only Call of Duty game I have not completed yet is Finest Hour. Everything else has been something I've played at least once, and at least have replayed, aside from the DS ones, and, well, the handheld ones. So, really, just thinking about this, most of it is just is this really going to be in my collection after a bit? Because I hate having games in my collection and never really playing them. And I totally get that that's different for some people. They might not care about this as much as I do. And I totally do get that. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to collect for games. And there's just what you want to do. There's some people who, well, they want to collect all the greatest hits and platinum hits for various games. Or they want to collect all the Japanese games released on the PS2. Or they want to collect all the, maybe Korean games released on a DS. So, just really whatever. And I totally get that. Hence, that's really one of the reasons why I kind of got picky about what I collected. Because, well, there's some really interesting things. There's also just some stuff that I generally could not fathom having in my collection. And there's games that kind of, maybe just look back at my collection and be like, yeah, why did I ever get this? Like, there's a lot of real-time strategy games, or games that are mostly multiplayer-centric, and I'd have these in my collection, and I'd honestly just look back at them and really just kind of question why I even had them in my collection. Now, obviously, nothing wrong with that, but when it came to my collection, I sort of actually want my collection to be more of my personality and really not just about, it's just a bunch of random games. Because every game I've collected is something I've wanted to play. Even if I've parted ways with it, it's been something I want to play. And I also do know I hate going online when it comes to looking for certain games. Mostly because that's just too easy. I mean, right now I'm actually looking for a copy of The Order 1886 because I have a physical copy of it, but I want to find one with an actual case, and I can find that one anywhere online, and I know that, but it doesn't really make finding it that much better. Just, I think what really makes collecting games much more fun is that a lot of these can come with a story. You'll just, like, most of the steelbooks I found were just from random chance. I know as of right now I have about 3 steelbooks in my Xbox One collection, and it's made it feels like it's made it more interesting, not because they're steelbooks, but just because they have a story with them. I mean, the first one was like an Injustice steelbook, and I found this one. I found this one like a few months ago, and I think it was right as I was about to play the game, or right after I completed the game, and I was concerned I would have not seen this one again, because I don't know how popular the game is, but I do know that Steelbooks tend to sell out quickly. But I know the other one was Quantum Break, and I found this one the other day. I feel like it was a piece of karma, because like I helped someone earlier that day, and all of a sudden I found this. So I found a Yakuza Like a Dragon one, and that was one of the first games I picked up on my Xbox. Or there's other games like I have a like I'd have to think, but I know my copies of Skyrim. These are very much important to me because a lot of these were ones I just found randomly, or just had really good luck with finding, and I like having these in my collection because I want the games in my collection to really have a story behind them, and I think that's what I really want with my collection, is that I want there to be a story with it. And I mean, I could just snag up like 10 random games, add them to my collection because I don't have them, and just have it be like that, which, yeah, I know people do that, and obviously no judgment, because, well, it's their decision. However they want to assemble their collection is their decision. But I know with me, I kind of want there to be a story behind my collection. I mean, I know the First Resistance, like, that was one of the first games I picked up on PlayStation 3. And it's become one of my favorite games. Or there's a copy of San Andreas that I have on the 360 and Xbox One back when the Xbox One was still the new console, and it stood out as one of the more interesting games in my collection, just because you don't really see those games anymore. Like, it's an Xbox 360 game, but in an Xbox One case, and I think it looks really cool, and I feel like it fits well with the collection, and I feel like it's similar with other games, because I don't want to just pick up a game just because it's rare, or it's expensive, or that it just looks cool. And obviously, there's going to be games that I do pick up that are actually, bound to be disappointing. I, unfortunately, do feel that. But I guess it also makes game collecting that much more interesting, because you never really know what you're going to get. And there's games that I've almost let go of, because I wasn't too sure if I was as interested in them until it really comes to me that, yeah, this game's super amazing. Like, Blue Reflection Second Light. This was in my collection for the longest time until I finally completed it. Same thing with Scarlet Nexus. Like, the copy I have now on my PS4 was the second copy I have, because I ended up selling my Xbox One because I wasn't sure if I wanted to, if I didn't have interest on that console. But in retrospect, it ended up turning out to be one of my favorite consoles. And well, my library for it isn't as large, simply because, to be honest, there's not much games I did want to get again on the Xbox, and I'm so on its exclusives. The games I do have for it, I generally do like it. There's a lot of games that I did fall in love with while playing them. And, so I guess, what about other collector stuff? Is any more of it interesting? Any other stories aside from gaming? Well, there's CD collecting. I used to do that. for quite a bit actually. I don't do that anymore, mainly because honestly, I never really listened to any of my CDs, to be honest. And that's really one of the reasons why my old music reviews kind of went the way of the dodo. But I guess I might as well talk about them since we're talking about collecting. Yeah, I used to collect CDs. I had quite an interesting collection. My first CDs were soundtracks, but my first actual really good CD was The Essential from Korn. And I remember I got this for, I think, my 13th birthday. Or my 14th birthday. I think it was my 14th. And it was the greatest hits album from Korn, which covered the first 6 albums. So, Korn, Life is Peachy, Followed in Leader, Issues, Untouchables, and Take a Look in a Mirror. So, the first 10 years of Korn were on that album, which was really cool. And there were other bands that I was also listening to at the time, and I eventually started collecting some CDs for them. But it wasn't really until 2017 that I did. There were other CDs I did get, like I got Danzig 4 through 8, all in kind of okayish condition. And when I mean okayish condition, honestly, some of these are generally going to get replaced someday. I remember my copy of Danzig 4 was still pretty decent. It wasn't really too trashed. Danzig 5 was missing its cover. Well, it was missing the front part of the case. The cover was there, the CD was there. It was the 2000 reissue, and I know that my copy of Sans Child was also good. Luciferi, I had to break part of the case because how I got it, the case was so badly damaged that I had to break part of the case just to get it open. And it really just shows that I'm like, yeah, I really probably should kind of have just gotten this replaced. But at the same time, I was also a teenager, and teenagers really don't have, like, the most money, and some teenagers probably don't really give a shit about quality either. So, yeah, I guess after that, I also had Circle of Snakes, which did not have the case. It's just a CD. I have a slip-on case for it, but I just don't have the jeweled case that it came out in. And I have the case for How the Gods Go, which never had the CD. I know I had a Slipknot CD, which this was the first one that I bought with my own money. And I had, I used to have a lot of Disturbed CDs. Now, obviously, this was years before they got into current controversy. But I remember I had everything up to Immortalized. Because the sickness I got from a parent. Actually, no, I did not. I never had Believe. My bad. Correction. I'm wrong about that one. I never did have Believe. Although I didn't want that album for the longest time. But I had 10,000 Fists. I'm full of shit because I did not have it Indestructible. I just remember not to. But I had Asylum, Immortalized, and Lost Children, which was a compilation album. And I remember these ones I got throughout 2018 and 2019. I know I had a Lady Gaga album, which generally might have surprised some people, because, I was hugely into metal, but I also had a Lady Gaga album. I had 2 Godsmack albums, a Linkin Park album, a Rob Zombie album. I had a few Cold albums. I had A Different Kind of Pain and Superfiction. I had a Static X album with Star War. I had The Misfits Walk Among Us. I had Evanescence's Fallen. there were other, yeah, I had Avenged Sevenfold's Nightmare, and there were other albums I had. I don't exactly remember which ones I had. Uh, Unfortunately, I generally don't even have most of these anymore. Uh, Reasons too personal to mention, but yeah, I don't have them anymore. And I never really sought to collect them again. I did, well, actually, I didn't have the rest of the Danzig albums because I actually went out and found quite a lot of them. They weren't as fun to look for because I got most of them off eBay or Amazon, which sucks because the Lost Tracks is so damn expensive these days. Like, I'm actually gonna look that up real quick. But it's one of the reasons why I just don't like collecting from online stuff is that you don't really feel like you found it. Just felt like you just finally gave up and went for an easy way out. But actually, okay, well, the album's like $40, so I think that might have been Death Rat Cereals that I was thinking of. $40 for 2 CDs is still a lot, though. Okay, eBay just really wants to make me look like a jackass right now. Because the album is like. Death Rat Cereals is like anywhere from like $40 to like $50, which, okay, still sucks. But I remember like one of these were about like $70, which was just such. It was just generally such like such shit that they did that. But yeah, going back to that, yeah, I had about every Danzig CD. The only one that I was missing was Black Audio 1 and 2, and that wasn't because I wasn't sure if I wanted to really drop the money on those ones. And I was missing I was missing most of the Misfit stuff. I don't even know if I even have Walk Among Us. And I know I was missing Sauron too, mainly just because those cities are so generally difficult and expensive to find. Like, I'll look them up quick. Yeah, Sauron 3 is like $60+ just for the album. Others is like 40. So I don't know, it really does depend, but I know it really does depend on the CDs that you're looking for, and I guess like what exactly version you're finding. Because I mean, when it comes to some old CDs, it's either cassette, vinyl, or CD, and I know depending on like the form of media it could be generally quite expensive. I've seen vinyls go for I've seen some vinyls just go for dozens of dollars, and I guess that's also a quality too, because cassettes might not be the best form of media these days, just because they were out over time. It's obviously not saying that CDs and vinyls are better. Personally, I like CDs more. They're more cheaper, but it also sucks if you like very niche bands like Danzig and Sauron. And I forgot what else I was gonna say. I could have sworn I had other CDs, but I honestly generally do not. Actually, no. Now I remember. Because I had Korn's, I had See You on Your Side, no. Take a Look in a Mirror, and I think I had Untitled. I think I had Untitled. I honestly don't know, because this was more than a year and a half ago, and I ended up losing a lot of my collection, so I don't know exactly which I had. So I guess, well, what about collecting movies or books? As I am not interesting. With movies, I don't collect movies. I'm not really much of a movie person, but I know with books, I used to be a book person. I still do read books. I still read. Reading's good, but I kind of moved on to reading stuff digitally, and honestly, I kind of got used to reading like fan fiction and stuff, or reading my own stories, just because, well, there's stuff that, well, hey, I want to read about that some books might not have. Or if they do have, it might not be as descriptive. So it's basically if you want to see this, you're just going to have to do it yourself kind of thing. But that's not to say that books are bad. I love books. A lot of my favorite books I've read in these past few years. In fact, I actually used to talk about books on this channel. I did 2 videos about that, and they're gone now, but I'll probably talk more about them here in a future video. But yeah, books have always been something interesting for me. I used to collect books, but I didn't really do I didn't really collect too many of them, and it's kind of the same for manga. I didn't really collect much manga either. When it came to collecting, it was mostly games that really caught my attention. Same with CDs. Will I ever collect CDs again? Honestly, I do not know about that. Mostly due to the fact that CDs is they're kind of just not as interesting to collect anymore. Mostly because everything just kind of goes digital, and my computer doesn't even have a disk drive anymore, so there's not really much of a reason to do that. And so, yeah, when it comes to collecting, I think it's just gonna be games for me. Obviously, if I have any new advice for collectors who want to get into the hobby or such, the only thing I can really suggest is just collect what you want to. Don't go collecting stuff because people are collecting it. Like, don't collect stuff don't collect Pokemon because Pokemon's popular. Don't collect don't collect stuff like, Pokemon cards because they're popular. Don't collect like old games because you think that they're popular. No, go collect what you want to collect. If you like Call of Duty, go collect every Call of Duty. If you like Doom, go collect every Doom game. There's really no wrong or right way to really collect any games, and I think people should really just be able to collect for what they want, and I think once they do that, I think they'll have a lot more fun. I think they'll have a lot more fun in regards for that than really anything else. But of course, these of course were my thoughts on collecting games. And so, of course, with that out of the way, I will, of course, be going on my way and doing another video. So, of course, like usual, thank you all for watching. These videos are extremely fun to do, and I hope you'll have a wonderful night. See you all next time.